Hi everyone, Dusty Rains here, and I thought I would share with you a very interesting county park in the Texas Panhandle, Collingsworth County. It's located in the southeastern part of the Texas Panhandle, right along US 83, and you may hear some of the traffic that is passing by. Give you a little bit of background, there is a river in this area and a bridge that goes over the river. We'll talk about that a little bit more. The river is the Salt Fork River of the Red River, which forms the boundaries between North Texas and southern Oklahoma. It is beautiful out here this year due to the amount of rain that we have gotten just this year. Looks so wonderful. As you can see, there are some things to look at over here, so let's go take a look. Our first exhibit is this little pedestal with a bronze marker on it, and it talks about how this county park came into being basically in 1975, and of course it lists the people who were responsible for making this possible, and it was officially named Collingsworth County Pioneer Park. And just to our right is an official Texas Historical Commission historical marker, and it talks about an early ranch in the Texas Panhandle established by some Scottish Earls of Aberdeen, Scotland, and Tweedmouth. Had almost 15,000 cattle when they first started. Did pretty well for a while, but then it started losing some money. I won't go into the background behind all that. And then W.E. Hughes in 1893 bought the land and added it to the Mill Iron Ranch, and later the 235 sections were sold to others to convert to farms and small ranches. Collingsworth County is still a major agricultural county in Texas. Lots of cattle and farm crops are grown here. Now, what does this look like to you as I walk over this way? If you said a giant arrow sticking in the ground, well, that would be true. What's it all about? Have you seen one of these before? There are at least one of these in dozens of counties in the Texas Panhandle and in North Texas. Now, each county will have a brief explanation of what the connection is to Quanah Parker in their particular county. Quanah Parker and his band of followers sure covered a lot of territory, even though they were restricted to traveling by walking and, of course, using horses for some transportation as well. Here's another historical marker, which is very interesting, if you can read that. Red River Plunge of Bonnie and Clyde. Back in 1933, Mr. and Mrs. Sam Pritchard and family saw from their home, located on the bluff to the west. That would be over in this direction. There's a lot of trees over there now. I suspect there were many fewer trees, or hardly any trees in this area at that time. Alright, so what happened is that the family noticed some commotion going on because an automobile had plunged into the Red River, actually the Salt Fork of the Red River, and rescuing the victims, unrecognized as Bonnie Parker and Clyde and Buck Barrow, which is not entirely correct. We'll find out about that later. They sent for help. Upon their arrival, the local sheriff and police chief were disarmed by Bonnie Parker. Buck Barrow shot Pritchard's daughter while crippling the family car to halt pursuit. Kidnapping officers, the gangsters fled. Bonnie and Clyde were fated to meet death in 1934 in this quiet region. The escapade is now legend. Now there is a museum in Wellington, which is just 6 miles south of this location. And they've got more information about this incident involving Bonnie and Clyde and their difficulties in the county at that time. And supposedly they have one of Bonnie's gloves that was left behind, and they're hurried to get away from being apprehended. But I didn't get to go into that museum. Perhaps I will some other day. This is the 4th of July holiday weekend, and I guess some folks decided to take a little holiday and did not open the county museum. Looks like this is the Great Seal of Collingsworth County and commemorating the bridge over the Salt Fork of the Red River. There are several panels of information here. This first one we're going to look at talks about the county and the community. That's a nice little map of Collingsworth County. And there's more wording down there, but it's covered up with some poo, so let's not take a close look at that. It's a little bit lengthy anyway. And this is an early map of the Rocking Chair Ranch from 1887. You will notice that all of these blocks in the county looks kind of like a checkerboard, and that is due to the fact that there was a railroad that was given each one of these blocks of land that are indicated with the slashes. At this time, Texas was land rich but cash poor. So generally they would give land to developers who would bring growth and prosperity to the state. Now these lands, as I say, in the slashed block areas, they were designated as school lands. Now according to this legend, the blocks of land that don't have the slashes in them, they belong to the Rocking Chair Ranch. I know the lighting is a little bit bad on this, so I'll try to cover this as best as I can. This panel talks about the development of farming and how the population in the county grew, and then begins to talk about the importance of transportation and some of the improvements that were made. Railroads, highways, farm to market roads. And that's not all of the history we have to talk about. And then on this side, it talks specifically about the Salt Fork Bridge, and the Red River Plunge of Bonnie and Clyde shows the location. There's a little map there. And this was the house that the Pritchard family was living in. And it says that this house is now demolished. And it talks about a big flood that actually took out a railroad trestle. See if I can get a good look here. And a train actually went off of that trestle, and 2 people were killed. I believe that was an engineer and the fireman, and then there was a brakeman switchman that did survive and was carried down the stream for many miles and yet lived to tell the story. This area was originally just a river crossing, that the wagons and the horses would have to go through the river to get from north to south, vice versa. But eventually bridges came along as motorized transportation became available, which made that transportation of goods and people over the river much more simple. And then here's some information about the first bridges and the different types of bridges that were being constructed at that time, and the architecture. Here is some information about the current bridge, now part of US Highway 83, 4-lane divided highway. And this photograph actually shows that iron bridge still on the right hand side. It is no longer there because in 2011 the people of the county really wanted to save this bridge. For some reason they really wanted to keep it and have it dismantled and erected some other place just as a memorial, because it's so important to county transportation. But that was all going to be too expensive to have to deal with. So they finally let it go and said farewell to it on October the 1st, 2011. And let me see if I can get rid of some of this glare so you can see the people all gathered together saying goodbye to their dear bridge. Now this little shelter that all of this is under, you will notice that what's holding up is the roof of the building is not the usual type of construction material that you would normally see on something like this. And that is because this is part of that bridge that was decommissioned in 2011. So the bridge is not gone altogether. All right, let me take you around to some of the other sites around this area. Now this park is located on the west side of US 83, and on the west side of the park there are two very nice little picnicking areas with tables and a roof overhead. Although the trees do shade this area quite a bit, helps a lot on these hot Texas summer days. And there is a water fountain right over there, and every once in a while you'll see one of these concrete boxes. At first I thought, well, that looks like a bear-proof box for trash or something. And well, it certainly fits that description. I don't know why they would be concerned about bears or need to make a trash receptacle this strong, but I did open up a hatch that's up on top and discovered there is indeed a plastic trash barrel inside. And there's plenty of trash receptacles around here. Come over this way a little bit. There's all these barrels. You can see several around. And if I can zoom in a little bit without making you sick, you can see that there is another picnic table there, again with trash receptacle, and then scattered in the background there are several more. And as you can tell, there are people out here with their RVs. It's a beautiful morning this morning. Got some rain last night. It's a little bit humid, but very, very pleasant morning today. Now, for those of you who love to travel the American Heartland back roads, let's go over here and look at some of the information about the availability of RV parking here. All right, travelers, this is the information that you will want to know. This is County Pioneer Park, and there is the schedule for hookup fees, which include 50 amp, $20, 30 and 20 amp, $15, tents $5. That's on a per day basis. With the instructions, get an envelope at right and deposit in slot in the bottom of the box. Checkout time is 2 p.m. There is a 3-day limit. And if you need more information or want to spend more time out here, get permission to do that, there are a couple of phone numbers for you to be able to contact someone and let them know what's going on. This is all done on an honor system. There is no one that is here collecting any fees. And here is the metal box that was being talked about. I'll reach in here and take out one of the envelopes, show that to you, if I can get it in the right. So here's the envelope that you fill out, and put your fee inside. Now, I did notice that there was a local fellow who came by and would check on these registrations in the morning. May have someone else come by in the afternoon. And there was a pin in there too. I don't know if you noticed that. So simple, straightforward, not very expensive, and a beautiful little place. We'll go take a look at one of the RV slots here in a bit. And this is parking space number 14. And as you can see, there is a frost-proof water faucet and freeze-proof, what do you want to call it. Here is one of the electrical boxes, and I see that this one only has an outlet for a 30 amp plug, so you may have to look for a slot if you need 50 amp, and of course there's a 20 amp. Now what I do not see is any place to dump sewage here. And according to the information we looked at, there was no mention of any black water disposal anywhere in the park. So I would not assume that you would be able to get rid of your sewage when you stay here or travel through. And look at those beautiful trees. When I first came here in the 1980s, there was no paving around here. There was no amenities for RVs. This is back in the early 80s. Did I mention that? And this is all just overgrown into weeds. Weren't nearly as many trees as there are now. Of course, that was about 40 years ago. So, man, this place has really made a transformation since I have been here at that time. I also wanted to point out that in this area there's a number of large fire rings, and you can tell there's even some wood in that one. And just walking around, I noticed that some of these picnic areas also include a grill that you can use charcoal, wood, whatever to do your cooking. There's another fire ring in the background there, and conveniently located right next to the picnic tables. Now, not all the picnic tables seem to have any cooking facilities, so you might take a look around, watch for that. And as far as trash goes, there are a number of these dumpsters available. And tell me what you think this is. This is one of the supports on the north side of the river where the first two bridges were built. And if I can pick up my camera just a little bit and zoom in, this is handheld, not on a tripod, so zoom in. I think, yes, there it is. we can spot the southern support down there. Now apparently Bonnie and Clyde were traveling from the south to the north, going into Kansas, I believe, and they missed a detour during the construction of the second bridge and ran off the end of the bridge and into the river. And that's how the family discovered that there was an accident. It is said that in that crash, Bonnie was burned somehow, quite severely, and they don't know if it was due to heat, like an exhaust on her leg, or whether it was battery acid, or perhaps due to a fire. But apparently she never really recovered from that injury. Quite serious. And we can tell this is an old right-of-way along this highway, because we have utility poles that cross here and continue on that way. Let's go take a look at the river. Once again, it looks like there's another bridge support right over that way, almost right in the river. This is what it looks like this morning after some recent rains. I think this is the most I have seen as far as water goes at this location. And I would think that the average depth right now is 4 to 6 inches. Not very deep at all. And of course, in the background, we have the new bridges on Highway 83. Now there is some playground equipment here in the form of teeter-totters, which in my experience is a rare sight these days to see teeter-totters at all. I don't know if these are in excellent working condition, but they look like they're in fairly good shape. Now, if you plan on getting a bunch of your friends together, they come out to the county park, there is this picnic shelter, which can handle probably 50 people, I would say. And if that isn't enough for you, there's another one way in the background over that way. And I thought I saw some swings too. And if I get an opportunity, I'll try to get over there. Now, I did take a little bit of a look. As you'll notice, there is a smokestack off of this area here. And I've already opened the lid to investigate what's going on and also give you a look. Now, you talk about a barbecue pit. Boy, howdy. You could cook up a lot of meat and grill corn and whatever you wanted. This thing is probably 4 feet wide, and I would say at least 10 feet long. Huge amount of cooking area. And what I thought was kind of interesting too, I thought it might be a place where food could be served, buffet style. But as you can see, these picnic tabletops actually wrap around the whole structure there, and there are benches there which might get in the way of serving food off that surface, actually. Interesting. Now, we haven't looked at this building yet, but it is the restrooms that are available here. I have been inside the men's side, and it's fairly well maintained, quite clean. I'm surprised to see that. I was hoping there would be some information on whether or not those large picnic areas with the huge barbecue pits are something that the county rents out to larger groups. As I come over here, this is the only information I see. So we might have to call one of those two numbers used for reserving RV spots and ask the folks there if there's some sort of charge. And and kind of zooming in here, getting kind of close. And if I can get my finger in the right place, we are in this part of the Texas Panhandle, Wellington. Okay, here's this other picnic shelter I was talking about earlier that will handle lots of people. And a couple things interesting about this. It's quite different from the other one. Now here is the cooking facility that is available. It's not nearly as large as the other one. Well, that's tough to... That lid is heavy and there's no counterweights on it like there is on the other barbecue pit. But it's manageable. They cook up quite a bit of meat. And then here, remember that comment that I made about the buffet table? Well, here is actually a buffet table or a serving table. There's no seating around. That would make it very easy to serve a large number of people. And then here the picnic tables are pretty much long and continuous. I'd say they're probably in the neighborhood of 60 feet long here. And of course, have roof overhead. And there's some information over here. I'll look at that a little bit closer. If there's anything about rentals or whatever, well, I'll let you know on that. And I found out that the county and the city actually jointly operate this park. So those two numbers that were mentioned on the bulletin area as we came in for day use fees, that type of deal, there's two phone numbers there. One may actually belong to a city office in the other county. I'm not sure. Haven't called them myself as of yet. And you can see that there are some swings over here. This is probably for your smaller children. Pretty high off the ground, so they're going to need some help to get up in there. And once again, a teeter-totter. And then swings for the older folks. And I know some older folks who would really appreciate that. And another teeter-totter. And another teeter-totter. All right, and plenty of shade. And improved gravel road all around, as you can see. So that's great. The county and city has done a wonderful job of transforming this area into just a rough, weedy patch of desolation into something that is very useful, beautiful, and relaxing, except for the traffic going by on US 83. For those traveling through in their motorhomes or vans, Jeep Cherokees, whatever. If you enjoy walking and looking at nature, native plants, one thing and another, most of this area is mowed so that you can do quite a bit of walking without being in high grasses, one thing and another. There's some buffalo gourd vine growing in this area. I doubt it is late enough in the year to have set any fruit yet. I don't see any. Oh, look here. Have you ever heard of a bug called a cicada? Let's look right down here on this leaf. There we go. Well, you can see that this is nothing but the skin left of the cicada. You can see that little slit in the back there. Cicadas start out as a grub living in the ground, living down in the ground for 7 years, and they come out and they go through a molting process, get rid of that old skin. Their wings unfurl and dry out, and they're ready to fly and make tons of noise so they can mate and make more babies who will wind up living in underneath the ground for 7 years. Over here is a type of sage that I don't see very often in the Texas Panhandle, and there's a good amount of it here along with the Johnson grass. Now, I would advise not to get into some of this tall stuff. We have two critters that run around in this area. They're called prairie rattlers and diamondback rattlesnakes. And you certainly do not want to encounter one of those. Maybe in a future video I will explore in some dangerous places like that, which I've done quite a bit, and perhaps give you some instructions on how to be safe when exploring in undergrowth that is that tall. And I thought there's another species of sage that was close at hand. That's why I'm still walking and talking. See if I can find that other species, which is way more prevalent in West Texas and throughout the Great Plains up to a certain point north, and then it just seems to disappear. Hold on a minute, I'll be right back. Now here is something I love to see in the Texas Panhandle landscape. These are wildflowers we call wine cups, and they generally grow in areas that get quite a bit of moisture. Kind of surprised to see them here, although maybe this year there's been enough moisture to bring some old seeds back to life now that they've got water to survive. All right, now I'm back to the point where we started. Right near there anywhere, there is the entrance to the park, which this video started out with. And I had walked over this way a little bit because I had noticed this species of sage that I pointed out earlier. There's a good patch of it here. But mixed right in with it is another type of sage. And you can see that the whole leaf and branch structure is completely different. And there's some larger plants over here. You see a little bit more easily. Now this is what I generally see the most in the Texas Panhandle. This is called sand sage. And as you can tell, the leaves are quite tiny compared to that other species. And don't make as good of a smudge stick. They don't burn as well as that species that we first looked at. Very woody and tough as well. All right, well, thank you very much for joining me on this encounter of this beautiful park that has been created by the people of Collingsworth County and Wellington, who have made this into a wonderful, beautiful, and useful space. Thank you very much for joining me. Well, surprise, surprise, looky what I found here. Look right down there. What does that look like to you? It looks like a place where you put your sewage hose into for dumping your black water. Looks like there's some water available there, along with the normal cautionary sign at black water dumping stations such as this. This water is for flushing and cleaning purposes only.